Welcome back to day 2. I'll just wait a sec till I can see that we are all good and live, ready to go. And then we'll make a start on day 2. So fantastic. As I said yesterday, big well done those of you who were working really well on task 1. Obviously, Hannah sent me some amazing work. Well done, Jacob, as well. I've heard he's working really hard on this project as well, so absolutely fantastic. So keep going, guys, with this. And I would love to see if your child's working at home. I'd love to see pictures, updates on how they're getting on. That would be absolutely fantastic. And I just wait. I'll just see if anyone's on yet. I'll just wait a second. I realise I'm just doing my shout outs and actually they're not on to hear them yet. So while we're waiting, today's task then, you've got pack in the, which is in the group already. So that's fantastic. So that should be up. I'll put a topic post on it, and I'll put everything in the announcements. I'm not moving them across into our own unit yet, just because then you won't be able to find them in the main feed, and it might just if people are sort of coming in part way, it might just confuse people. So, but it will have the topic post on it, so you can find it pretty easily. So this is day 2. That's it's in the group already. And the other thing I will explain what it's all about in a minute is the storyboard grid as well. I mean, I've just made one. As you can see, it's pretty basic. You can make your own. You don't have to print that one off if you don't want to, but there's just one there if you would like it. So I see people are starting to come in now. So as I was saying before people actually came in, I know Hannah was working really well yesterday, and I know Jacob is working really hard as well on this at the moment, so fantastic. If anyone else would like me to do a shout out at any point, please just let me know, and I will do. So yesterday, hopefully you came up with your product, your project, and then you did your information guide around it. You kind of, you filled in all the blanks with it. You got a really good understanding, a really good grasp of your product. So today we're going to move on to another stage in your sort of campaign, your sales campaign around your product, which is the advert. And again, if you watch The Apprentice, you will know that this is always a staple, the advertising task. And normally we get quite a lot of entertainment out of watching very dodgy adverts, things going wrong. But we're not going to do that today, because we're going to think properly about the most important part of the advert, which is the story. And the story is what underpins the advert. The story is what's going to make people connect with it, and therefore they're going to connect with your product as well. So by the end of today, you hopefully know how to create an advert storyboard, and you'll have come up with the story around your advert. How are you going to sell it? How are you going to make people connect with it? Okay, it's all about this thing, connection. So your first task is to think about a good advert and your favourite television advert. But I want you to really think about a television advert, not just go, oh, I like it because it's got nice music in it. Why do you connect with it? Does it make you want to go and buy the product? That's what you've got to think. The product's always got to be at the centre. What story is it telling about that particular product? How is it making you connect with it in a particular way? So I mean, just off the top of my head, I'm just thinking like pasta. For some reason the Dolmio adverts, but it's all about family, isn't it? And a family getting together, and the message is very much, this is a meal that you can cook, mums can cook, and dads can cook for the whole family. You sit down, everyone will sit down, everyone will enjoy this meal because it's tasty, it's simple, it's good food. So that's kind of the message, the story of the advert. So try and think about, if you can, try and think about an advert that you enjoy. Adverts that are funny as well. We tend to connect with funny adverts. Sometimes adverts that are just really silly connect with us as well, don't they? I mean, just thinking like, I guess it's quite an old one, show my age now, but like the Budweiser, the What's Up one, and everyone went around saying that, didn't they? It took off massively, that catchphrase, but it worked. It was really silly, really wacky, but it worked for Budweiser, and it got their product out there. Again, on the beer, hopefully we're not in the process of buying beer at the moment at your age, but the Carlsberg, when they do the, Carlsberg don't, the flatmates one was brilliant, for example. Carlsberg don't do flatmates, but if they did, they'd be the best in the world. And obviously the message underneath that is, Carlsberg do the best beer in the world. Carlsberg do beer, therefore that's the best beer in the world. That's the beer to go and buy. If they did something else, they're so good, they'd be brilliant at that as well. Okay, so all those kind of messages. Let's think about those messages underneath the advert that make the story work. Now, yesterday I popped a link into the group, and it's for an advert. I couldn't believe when obviously I know the date it was 2014 for a reason, because that was the 100-year anniversary, obviously, of the beginning of the First World War. But I couldn't believe that was actually 6 years ago, because I remember that advert coming out on the telly like it was yesterday. So if you have had a chance to watch it, fantastic. If you haven't though, don't worry. You can go back and look at it afterwards. There's no rush. As I say with all these, you take these all at your own speed, in your own time. All of these, go back, catch up as much as you like. But for those of you who have watched it then, or perhaps, I'm talking to you a bit later on in the day when you're watching this back and you have watched it, it was put together, as I say, in 2014. To mark the 100-year anniversary of the start of the First World War. And it was actually made, you'll see at the end, it was made in collaboration with the British Poppy Legion as well for this. So it was, quite a special advert, quite a unique advert. You might notice it's quite long. Adverts are not normally as long as that. I think running time comes at about 3.5 minutes, which is quite a long time for an advert. So your adverts don't have to be that long and detailed. And this advert, there was lots of money around this, lots of high production values, because Sainsbury's wanted to do something special. And the thing I love about this advert, though, is it's brilliant in terms of story. It's got a clear story, obviously drawing on actual events. So that's what I'm going to mark out with you now as well, story. Now, when I teach creative writing, initially we start, you've got a beginning, a middle and an end of a story, which I'm sure terms you're used to using. But I try and teach students to go a bit more advanced than that with their writing, and to have exposition. Okay, an exposition is basically a fancy term for all the information you need to know at the beginning of the story. So we need to know at the beginning of this story, we're in the First World War. Actually, I'm going to make that just because I'm limited to space. We know we're in World War I. We know it's 1914. We need to know that. And we know it's Christmas Eve. So that's our first bit of important exposition, background information we need to know. Otherwise the story doesn't make sense. We need our context for it. And then the other important bit of exposition is obviously the bar of chocolate, which is going to become later on the chocolate bar. That obviously this soldier's been sent from home, from his wife, fiance, somebody from home has obviously sent him the chocolate bar. So that's your exposition. Then we have rising action. So our rising action is the next stage of the story as you enter more problems into the story. And so our rising action, we do the singing. And there's that beautiful moment where they're singing in German and English, and it's all just sort of blending into one, which is obviously really symbolic, really powerful. Got the singing, and then the next morning the silence of the guns, so it's a ceasefire, and then the British soldier obviously climbing out over the top, going over the top of the trench, which was obviously incredibly dangerous. You can see, the reaction from sort of the Germans straight away. They think it's an attack as well, so they arm the guns. But at that moment, then the German soldier advances as well, doesn't he? The German soldier realises he's not armed, he's not dangerous, he hasn't come to attack, and so the German soldier comes over as well. The German soldier meets him. And then a gorgeous moment where they all come out of the trenches, don't they? I'm just gonna have to shift my board a little bit as well, so that you can see what I'm gonna write at the bottom. I'm gonna have to move some stuff up in a minute. Climax. So climax is all the soldiers. Or move it a bit. My no expense spared technology here. Okay, so the climax is all the soldiers. Then the falling action. So they have, they meet in the middle, they play the football game. Falling action. I'm going to write it up here actually. Room. Oh, falling action. The gun starting up again. They return to their own trenches. And your resolution is him finding the bar of chocolate. So the German soldier finds the bar of chocolate, the thing that was obviously meant to be a Christmas present for the English soldier. And it takes us a minute or two, doesn't it? We kind of remember what happened. I've watched this advert lots of times now, but we remember, don't we, that resolution moment. We remember that the British soldier gave him his coat, and obviously the British soldier put the chocolate in there as a present, as a way of acknowledging, the fun they'd had, a way of saying Merry Christmas. And obviously, the link then to Sainsbury's is, the idea of Christmas. Christmas is for sharing. Christmas is for being generous. And the more perhaps cynical tagline to that is then obviously, if you're going to buy your gifts to people, go and buy them from Sainsbury's. Because Sainsbury's is all about giving. It's all about being generous. It's all about the spirit of Christmas. Therefore, go and get your presents from Sainsbury's. So that's the slightly more cynical message underneath, I suppose. But it's a beautifully crafted advert. I mean, it's really like a little mini film, isn't it? More than an advert, but with that message tagged on at the end to remind you are watching an advert for Sainsbury's, and Sainsbury's, this is the message. This is what Sainsbury's want people to associate with their brand. Therefore, this is what they want you to go and do when you buy your presents for everyone. Go and buy them from Sainsbury's. They did also sell those chocolate bars as well that year. I remember some of the money went to the British Poppy Legion as well, but so there was, as beautiful as it is, as amazing as it is, it's still an advert, still something to sell a commercial product. So that's what you've got to remember when you watch that one back. But yeah, beautiful story. So what you're going to do then, once you've had a look at that advert, thought about your own adverts, there's a few questions as well. So obviously I've kind of done the story with you. We've been through the story on there. Sorry, it's all a bit squished on my board, but we've been through the story. But other things just to think about there, it's a camera angle, dialogue, text on screen, obviously music. Music's very powerful in this one, music and sound effects, because of, the music, how the music changes, that moment when they sing Silent Night together. This advert wouldn't work without the music. The music connects us emotionally. It's very, very powerful in this. Obviously, dialogue as well in there. There's not a huge amount of dialogue, but obviously there is a bit, isn't there? The exchange between the two soldiers. So you can think about how that's used, perhaps why is there dialogue at that moment between us. Adverts as well, text on screen. A lot of adverts usually will have text on screen, so we have like the Sainsbury's logo at the end, but also that tagline, Christmas is for sharing as well. So that's an important part of the advert. When someone designed that, they're thinking about at every stage what people are going to see on the screen as well. And yeah, camera angles. So like, the moments when they're climbing up the trenches as well, the moment when it kind of pulls back. So you have start with the two soldiers shaking hands, meeting each other, and then we pull back and we see all the soldiers coming out as well. So anything like that you can think of. Don't stress about this bit though, don't spend ages on it. It's to give you ideas, to get things flowing in your mind. A bit like I said, yesterday with the writing to inform, the best way is to read an example. The same with this. The best way you're going to get to grips with how to do a good advert is to look at examples of good adverts. So once you've done that, then it's your turn to do your storyboard. Now, normally when people design adverts, they do it as a storyboard. So this is what this is all about. And you see you've got a different box. So each box is a different part of the advert, a different thing that you see on screen, a different stage of the advert. So if we were doing, again, the Sainsbury's advert, box 1 would be the soldier in the trench. perhaps with the text on screen to say as well, you know, it's 1914 Christmas Eve. We want that so that the reader know, the audience know exactly where they are. But that could be like your first shot. Your next shot could be he hears the soldiers singing. Next one could be, you know, we get a shot, you know, that shot we had, you know, Christmas morning where the guns have stopped and it's completely dead up there. The next shot, him climbing up the trenches, then the German soldiers reacting. You don't have to be limited. Obviously, you can print out as many of these as you like. You can draw your own because all it is, it really is a grid. You don't have to be limited to 8, but I would suggest you need at least 8 in your storyboard. And it doesn't need to be as long as that Sainsbury's advert either. That's quite long. For me, you see, actually, normally on TV, probably the normal length you'd have is about 30 seconds. Probably that was a lot longer, that advert. And I think when they showed it, they did show like condensed versions of it as well for TV time. They didn't necessarily get to show the whole thing all the way through. So yeah, but try and fill at least 8 of these boxes, and you can add notes and details like, you know, for some music. So, you know, if you're describing, again, going back to my example, the shot of the trench, you know, the trench is completely empty, you can put, you know, it is completely silent at this moment, no noise whatsoever. Or, you know, the moment where everyone comes out the trench, you can, you know, you'd put, you know, there is some, you know, loud, stirring, emotive music at this point. So add your own notes to it, add as much detail to it as you want for your product. If you're really not confident with drawing, you know, the thing, like I said yesterday, with these tasks, adapt them to your strengths. You can just write a very visual description of what you can see if you don't want to draw it. You can print off images from online and paste them on to use as well. So it's up to you how you want to do it. The other option you've got, I've put this on here. Obviously, we've looked at TV. You could do it as an advert for the radio instead, because obviously radio advertising is another very powerful medium. The thing you've got to be careful of, obviously, with radio in some ways it's much, much harder because obviously you can't see things. You're only relying on one sense, whereas TV you're working on a combination of sight and sound. Radio, it's all got to be done through sound. So, you know, sound effects. Again, if you're doing that Sainsbury's advert on the radio, sound effects are going to be absolutely critical. Dialogues are going to be more important because you haven't got body language on radio as well. So that's just something, if you want to do something a bit different, if you want an extra challenge, you can think about radio. You could even, if you want to really go for it, do a TV campaign and a radio campaign, because obviously that's what people would, you know, when they do products properly, that's what they would do. The other thing, you know, sort of tip for it, if you watch The Apprentice, the thing that they, every year on year, the thing that always trips them up is sometimes they create these wonderful adverts, but it doesn't actually tell you anything about the product. The product isn't in, you know, they almost forget to mention the product in there because they get so carried away with story. Remember, the story is got to be around the product, you know, ultimately, how does this product change people's lives? So I know it was perhaps a bit harder with the Sainsbury's one, but the message, I suppose, is, you know, Sainsbury's change lives because, you know, Sainsbury's, you know, make these things that bring happiness to other people. So therefore, you know, you go and do your shopping from Sainsbury's. You know, it's got to be that, like, find a bit of the thought process. How is this advert making us want to go and buy that product? You know, what is it? What is it about that product? What story are you trying to tell? So I think that is more or less everything that I wanted to say to you in terms of the task today. Then, as I said, everything is in the group already. And as with yesterday, I will pop back on about 3 o'clock and just to check in with everyone, just check everyone's all right, see how everyone's got on, and chat to you a little bit about tomorrow's task. Just as a heads up as well, I'll put this in the group. Tomorrow, the lesson will be slightly earlier, it'll be at 9:30, just so I've got something at 10 o'clock tomorrow, so I'm afraid I've got to get up for it a little bit earlier tomorrow, but it will be on catch up for the rest of the day as well. So in the meantime, any problems, you can't find anything, you need help with anything, struggling with anything, just let me know, and I'll pop in and see you all again at 3. Okay, so I'll see you later. Bye.